everyone, I'm David for Jedi Horsemanship. Don't worry, we don't use lightsabers with your horses, we use mind tricks instead. I've got a question that came in from one of our fans. This is from Lily. I adopted a Mustang last year, and throughout that time I've spent a lot of time doing groundwork and creating a bond with him. I recently started riding him, but we've been having some troubles. He does really well doing groundwork sessions, and when I first get on him, he flexes his head both directions well. I can get on to walk, trot, and stop, but he doesn't respond to leg or rein cues to bend or turn in any direction. He becomes frustrated and fights me to go the way he wants to go. I don't want to have a physical fighting relationship with him, so I'm hoping you may have some tips to help me. Horse is 6, adopted him out of the wild late, and he was in the holding pens with the older Mustangs for a year before Lily adopted him. Well, thank you, Lily, for the question. All right, so I'm going to give you some tips and exercises that should help with that problem, because you don't want him kind of feeling like he's taking control of the situation, and you certainly don't want him to be stiff as well. So you want him to be able to respond lightly. So I know you've been doing your groundwork exercises on the ground for a long time, but I want to show you a couple things. Make sure that you're getting these down. First of all, when you're doing anything with the reins and maybe they're not responding real well under saddle, make sure that you do all your groundwork exercises with your bit. And I assume you're using a bit. I use a side pole. If I have to get them to flex, I want to do it with a bit. So I want to do the rein attached to the bit, not just attached to the halter, because if I give all the cues on the halter and then go to the bit, see, they've been kind of trained to respond to cues on the nose, whereas the bit gives completely different commands on the mouth. So I want to make sure I'm using the same thing on the ground and in the saddle for those cues. So I want to make sure I'm flexing. I'd flex with the reins. Make sure you can get them flexing real light. Now, you'll know if you're there, if you can pick up and basically the amount of pressure is not even going to pull a butterfly wing off. So if you're still having to feel like you're pulling that head around, you've still got some work to do here. So make sure that head is real light, and you ought to be able to flex both sides from one side. So I ought to be able to flex this other side and use the same very, very light amount of pressure. See that? Real light amount of pressure, both sides. I should be able to do that with the bit. Okay? If they're real stiff, if they're hanging on you, but they know they should be able to flex, this is what I'm going to do. If I pick up on this and I feel him kind of stiff or resist, I'm going to bump, and then bring it around. And then try it again. Go straight, and I go to pick it up. If he leans on me, I'll bump. If he's a little bit heavy, I'll bump. You know, and then release. As soon as they're light, make sure you're releasing. Okay, so that'll help lighten up that flexing, so that you have that real lightness under saddle as well. So the next thing is responding to leg cues. Now, this can be taught on the ground. You want to make sure you teach this on the ground before you get into the saddle, because by the time you get into the saddle, it's something completely different. You don't have as much control or the ability to reinforce generally from the saddle. So to teach this from the ground, first of all, you've got 3 points on the horse, both on the ground and in the saddle. You've got the shoulder, the middle, which will be the go command, and the back for hindquarter control. Now, in the beginning, I'm going to exaggerate, so those points are more spread out in the beginning, you know, with both my feet and my finger cues. But as the horse gets more refined, those points will come to a point where they're just real small. So in the beginning, I'm going to exaggerate. I'm going to maybe come all the way out here to help them out. Okay, and then when I'm in the saddle, it'll also be where I'll actually bring up my foot all the way back here and put pressure on that point. Okay, so on the ground, when I'm teaching this, first of all, what I want to do is I want to be able to bend the head around just a little bit. And I just want to bend the head around, and then I'm going to use this thumb on this side and put pressure right here, and my opposite hand, I'm going to have this ready to tap their hindquarters if necessary. He's moving. I didn't ask him to move yet. Go this way. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend their head. I'm going to touch him right here, and he's moving, and then I'm going to release and rub him with the opposite hand. Okay? Now hopefully he'll be stiff at some point here so that I can show he's already anticipating me too much though. So I'm going to rub him a lot so that he kind of gets used to that and doesn't think that touching him just means move. Okay, so now I'm going to try and do it. So I'll put pressure here. If he doesn't move, then I'll tap real gently. And he moved and disengaged his hindquarter. So when I tapped real gently, he disengaged his hindquarter. And what I mean by disengage is that this foot right here crossed over in front of the other one. If it crosses behind or goes side to side like this, that's not a true disengage. You want that foot to cross over like this. So I'll do it again. So watch the feet. Watch the feet. I'm going to put pressure right here, tap gently. Nope, he didn't cross over yet. And keep doing it. There, he crossed over and disengaged. And immediately I stop him by rubbing his flank where I was touching him with my thumb. There we go. Okay, so, and then, you know, once I get that pretty good, where he's moving off my thumb every time I put pressure right here, there he goes, then I might ask for 2 or 3 steps. There we go. And remember to rub it away every single time after you've done it. Make sure you rub that away, because that will ensure that they're not going to get overly sensitive. You want them just the right bit of sensitive, but not dull. And you don't want them so sensitive that they're practically jumpy at everything that you do. So make sure that you rub that away. And then I would do the same thing for the shoulders as well. So that's the hindquarters. The more that you do this on the ground, the better they're automatically going to be in the saddle. The shoulders are going to be the same thing, except I'm going to use this thumb, put pressure right there, and then I'll use this hand and the popper, and I'll put pressure around usually the neck region around here somewhere, and I'll apply pressure as needed. And I want to use driving pressure, which is like this, as opposed to steady pressure, which would be just pushing them. Okay, so I'm going to put my thumb right here. He's not moving, so I'll use some driving pressure. Tap, tap, just real lightly. There, he crossed over. That's perfect. Now I'm going to rub that away, and I also want to rub wherever I tapped. Right there. Okay, rub here again. Now I'll do it again. Thumb right here. He's not responding, so tap. There we go. Good. And rub it away. Rub here. Again, put pressure. Tap, tap. There we go. Nice crossover. That was really nice. Okay, I want to get it to the point where he's just gonna, there, he just moved right off the thumb there, so that was excellent. Didn't have to tap that time. And I'll do that, so I want that 1 foot first when I just put my thumb here before I want to do 2 or 3 feet with my thumb. So if I'm saying I want 3 steps, well, I got to get the first step with thumb only and not having to reinforce it before I can get to 3 steps. So now that I've gotten the thumb, maybe I'll ask for 1 more. Oh. Okay, thumb again. There we go. And I can ask for, there, that was nice. The tighter their turn radius, the better, because you don't want them kind of walking forward. You want them to pivot around their hindquarters on those. Here's one other thing that you might find helpful. Make sure you do this with the bit again, making sure that you're going to do the same cues on the ground with the reins as you do in the saddle with the reins. So if I had a bit on, I'd do this with the bit as well. Basically what I want to do is I want to back him up and bring him forward as many steps as I can. So I might back him. So I'm just going to pick up real lightly on that rein and back him up. Now look how lightly I'm picking up. This is really, really gentle. That's my goal. That's where you want to be, picking up so lightly that they can barely even feel that pressure, but that's how lightly you want them to respond to that going backwards, and the same thing again going forwards. Okay, now I'm going to show you a success tip on making sure you reinforce those commands. Okay, if I go to back up, see, I'm going to gradually increase this pressure. If I go to do this and he doesn't respond, well, then I've got to increase that pressure, and I might do it by shaking the rein. And then if he still doesn't respond, I might do it by bumping on the rein, and that's going to be kind of uncomfortable. He should back up by then. If not, you can either tap him on the chest while you're bumping here, or you can lightly kick their cornet band to get their feet to move backward. And then remember to immediately release the moment that they respond to that pressure by moving back, and then start again with light pressure. Never start with heavy pressure. Always start with light pressure. They'll only be as light as the lightest pressure you ever use. So that's why every single time I pick up, I want to pick up with just the barely tiniest bit of pressure and get them to respond to that first, and only increase the pressure as necessary to get them to respond to that. Okay? Just picking up real lightly. If they don't respond to that, make sure you're increasing that energy immediately. So I pick up real lightly. Maybe I need him to move faster, so I might bump back a little harder. Okay, remember, do the same thing with the ground exercises with the bit in their mouth if you're using a bit. If you're using a hackamore, make sure you're doing it with the hackamore. Side pull, same thing. I'm using a side pull, okay? All right, so the next video I'll show you some tips and exercises that you can do from the saddle to get some of that lightness going on. So thanks for watching. Catch you on the next video.